So what's the difference between what makes something good or bad?
It's an essential question of life. Good is in people, and therefore it's in groups or organisations, and so is bad. But essentially it's going to come from people. Let's differentiate it this way. Good organisations made up of good people have a great forbearance. They're very tolerant, and what they're trying to do is to establish a model of good in the hope that those who are bad will see that it's a good thing and try and copy it. Bad people and organisations attack. That's the point of difference. They attack to hurt. They attack because they're bad and they want to take their badness to others and bring the good into their bad. And by doing that persistently and consistently, they're trying to get a bad reaction from those who are good. Therefore, they'll feel satisfied just by that alone, that they can say, I've succeeded in that I've turned the good into, like me, bad. That happens in organisations, it happens in countries, sadly, where some countries purport to be good countries and they take the high moral ground. But that's not necessarily good. There's nothing in spirit that says democracy is better than what happens in some of the other Middle Eastern countries. It's not like that at all. Good is everywhere or nowhere, bad is everywhere or nowhere. It's not related to a government, and we can't take the high moral ground just by saying it. It's got to be through how we act and what we do.
And so as an individual looking at particular companies or organisations, what would we be looking for? What
you're looking for is steer clear of those who attack others. And if someone is in an organisation that's good, and essentially they're not, and they try to learn to be good, but eventually overcomes them, and their need to be bad wins, they'll attack.
What are they looking for? What outcome?
They'll try and hurt the good to bring as many of that good down into the bad with them.
And are they looking for power or money?
Sometimes money, but it mostly always will be the power, because in good, power is less important. It's the power of the group, of what we're doing, of what we're trying to achieve is the power. It shouldn't rest with an individual being more powerful than anyone else, because in good, there should be a higher sense of equality.
So if we're looking at organisations, is it what their mission statement is? Is it?
Mission statements rarely have anything to do with anything. It's what they actually do. And it'll show in their actions. It'll show in their actions to their staff, to their clients, in their product and so forth, and how they'll try and hold their position with a forbearance towards others, not trying to diminish or attack everyone else.
I think in identifying good and bad, you're looking at negative or positive. Yep, that we can sort of almost categorise people as the bad people as such, as being negative, and so that like attracts like, so they will draw to them other negative people. And that will be to demonise, to bring down, to besmirch the character of someone who is more positive, therefore we say good. And positive meaning that they're trying to help other people to grow. They're trying to help other people to achieve. They're trying to help other people to achieve the mission of the organisation or whatever it is. But because another person is jealous, may not have the ability of that person, may not have the energetic power of that person, they therefore want to besmirch that person, and so they engage in negativity. So I think the identifier of good or bad is this person a negative person or is this person a positive person? Now, we're all negative at some time or other. When something bad happens in our life or we're not having a good day, we're negative. But it's much more than that. It's when negativity becomes part of behaviour, general behaviour, and where it's reaching out to really, really touch others, to bring other people into that negativity too. That's what you look out for.
If you identify as a positive person, but negativity seems to come for you all the time, what would be happening in that sort of situation?
You've got to look at what your own behaviour is, yeah? If you're drawing, like attracts like, remember, in every situation, like attracts like. If you're drawing negative people to you, you are a negative person. In whatever way that you're putting that negativity out, you may not be aware of. It will just be through words, it will be through actions, it will be through a few words here and there. But it's a few words that's letting that other negative person know that you're thinking the same as them, and that's negatively. So if you're drawing them to you, you're negative, you need to change. And when you change to the positive, like attracts like, you'll draw the positive. But can you cope with the positive? That's the question. Can a negative person cope with the positive person? Because a positive person is much more able to give love, much more tolerance, much more able in an organization to bring people along to be their best, to give people their best growth, to make a person to be able to help, to be part of the nurturing, be part of the mentoring of a person to be at their best. You know, a negative person doesn't want to do that, because bringing another person along to be at their best is a threat, is competition to a jealous person. So they're not going to want to do that. So, you know, there's part of character and personality involved here too, and evolution. Yeah. An evolved person or a highly evolved person is going to stay away from negativity because it's taking them off course, what their journey is. A person who has been here for a few lifetimes is much more likely to be involved in more negativity.
It's much easier to be bad than it is good. So it's a much harder journey to be a good person. And it takes much more courage to be good than it does bad.
Why is that?
Because it's so easy to be bad because you're with the multitude. And to be good is to stand out. So all you're wanting to do when you're good is to stand out with that good influence, that positive, loving influence. You're not trying to hurt or dictate or demand to others, just here's another way. And that takes a lot of effort because you're different. Whereas fitting in and being badder than the bad ones is easy.
In counselling, you often come across people who feel like they're bad, but they're good people, but they feel bad. What's happening for them?
That often comes from childhood, and we see that all the time, and I've just very recently been working with a client on that very thing. Maybe once in their lifetime, maybe just once, they've been told by a parent they're bad. You're a bad boy, you're a bad girl because you did that. But that can stick in someone's mind for a lifetime. Or maybe they've been told that more than once. Maybe they've been told that in school. Maybe that's something that's come from a school teacher quite often. And they accept a belief that they are bad. And when they grow into adulthood, I've found it so many times in counselling, dealing with a client. What tends to happen, and particularly with men, is if they're criticized, if they're perceived that they're criticized in any way by a partner or whoever, generally a partner is where you see it happen, where the partner just might be asking them to step up to do A, B, or C, but they perceive this to be criticism, back to when they got that criticism back when they were 8, 9, or 10, and therefore immediately say to oneself, I'm a bad person. So they start defending, they start getting angry, they start, of course, hurt is what's happening for anger. And what we have to shift, or what you have to shift, is right back to the foundation of when did they first believe, or who first told them they were a bad person.
And I don't think that they would be thinking about bad being negative, a negative person. I think, as you said, it would be more that they haven't done what their parents needed them to do.
Good people are people who have values, who have solid values. For some people that will be religious values, and there's nothing wrong with that. For some people that will be the 10 Commandments. For Jews that will be the values of Judaism. For Muslims that will be the values of the Quran. That's a good thing if the person is living by those values. And we can therefore say, okay, they're trying to be a good person. A negative person is a person whose values, they don't have them set in the first place, or they're shifting sands, you know. I will believe in this today, but tomorrow I can shift that to believe in something else because that makes me accepted with this crowd, and this crowd makes me feel powerful, and this crowd makes me feel wanted and have a larger voice. So if we kind of can give that roadmap, if you want to be a good person, identify half a dozen values in your life. Live by them, stand by them in all circumstances. When you see something happening over here that's negative, that's gossip, that's hurting another person, that you can immediately say, that does not meet my values. I'm not going to hurt another person just because it makes me feel powerful. I'm not going to go near that. I'm going to step away from that.
With gossip, if someone's a gossip, is that a sign of negativity?
I believe so, but many people just do not know that they gossip. Yeah, I do believe it's more common in women. I do believe it is, and from my experience, I have found men to gossip less. But I might be wrong there. I don't know how much do men gossip in a football club or a golf club. I don't know. I need Ian to answer that. I just have a perception that women tend to do it much more. And I guess that's because women get together in groups and are much more forthcoming with their emotions and their sharing than I believe men do in groups. And I think it just becomes a norm. People are just, excited about, I know something that you don't and I want to share it with you. But the danger there is it true? Mm-hmm. Is the information true in the first place? The next danger is the information private to another person? If it's private to another person, you've got no business sharing it. If you don't know whether it's true or not, you've just heard it third or fourth hand, you've got no business sharing it. Gossip hurts people. Gossip spreads false rumors. Gossip damages people. It's very dangerous. So the best idea is to be quiet and keep one's mouth closed.
It's my experience that men gossip a lot less than women. For all of the reasons you say, women by and large are better communicators, or better can mean in this case they communicate more. So men tend to share less for all sorts of reasons. The problem with gossip is that it becomes a tool of power. And I'm trading in something, and it's a story. It makes me feel powerful to know this and to share because you don't. And that adds nothing to the discussion. And then, as Pearl said, the veracity of the comment is lost or not even taken into account. And it just becomes an exercise that is not only futile, it's actually dangerous. Problem with gossip to realise is that, is someone always sharing gossip with you? And if they are, it's back to what Pearl said, it's like to like. They see you as a gossip.
They see you as a listener. You're listening to the gossip,
Yeah.
so therefore you're part of the equation.
Yeah.
If you're going to say to a gossiper, I don't want to hear that.
That's the best.
Because A, you don't know if that's true, and B, this might harm this person. They're not going to come to you and they're not going to try and do it again.
And from a spiritual perspective, why is this important?
Values. It's values. If you have a value that you're going to have an equality with people, and we all should have this value in my view. Some people might say, no, that's not a value of mine, and that's fine. But a value of mine is to have equality with people and to understand that every person is entitled to, a fair go. They're entitled to a fair chance. Well, if you're gossiping in that way behind someone's back and saying whatever you're saying, it's not equality, it's not having a fair go. We must there look at, if you and I, Carla, and the 3 or 4 people who are working in this organisation to assist us, if we're having a meeting and we might be talking about the development of some people, where they're due to move to, where they're not due to move to, or whatever. In that meeting, we're going to talk about people. We have to. Their teachers will be there, whatever, at that meeting, and we have to say, well, that person has a weakness here, or weakness there, or whatever, a strength here, a strength there. That is not gossip. That is substantial information that has to be shared that people have to understand. And we would hope we want that to stay in those circumstances. If it's taken outside of that and spread outside of that, then of course it's gossip. Yeah. And in families, round the dinner table, we will talk about our experiences with people. You know, that's common sense. You might be having a family dinner and you might say, well, you know, I had an experience with Johnny down the street today and he was very rude and he was quite nasty to me and whatever, blah, blah, blah. That's not strictly gossip. You're sharing what happened and what happened with that person. Again, if it's taken outside of that family and it's shared outside of that with an intent to hurt, then it's most definitely gossip. And gossip with intent to cause pain.
Gossip can be good and it can be bad. I've heard that Johnny and Jilly are going to get married. Isn't that exciting? Yep. Good gossip, in a positive way, because everyone's happy, presumably. Bad gossip is the problem. People don't look at the truth, they forget about that, therefore they use it to demean others, therefore they're having others judge the subject of the gossip negatively. And that's grossly unfair.
What's also the correlation between negativity and idealism versus being a realist? So you know when sometimes if you're an idealistic person, then the realist comes along and it just feels like they're naysayers and being negative.
You've just got two different types of people. There are those who want to exist in the world and find a process to allow them to exist. And there are those who want to change the world. And they're the two groups you're talking about. So those practical people don't want to do any more than they do. And if you're an idealist and you want to change things all of the time, they're consistently going to tell you why you can't. Because that's all they know, because they're safe and comfortable in what they're doing. But that shouldn't affect the idealist, because the idealist needs to keep going, to put the ideas up so that a little way forward, an idealist will want that, but if they can get that to start, well then we're fine.
And I suppose therefore it's not necessarily negativity that they're presenting you with.
I'd say it's safety.
Yeah.
Look, I do believe idealists change the world. We have to have idealists, and I speak from my own position as well. Along the journey of idealism, we learn practicality and we learn reality. We get so many knocks on the road to idealism, we're able to say, okay, well, that actually doesn't work. So you find another way. But the ultimate goal is idealism. Let's try and make something better. The journey is how best to do that, and you find the underbelly of people in the process, and you find the reality of people in the process, and in doing that and discovering that, naivety tends to fall away.
For more spiritual knowledge, remember to subscribe. If any of the information Ian and Pearl spoke about piqued your interest, make sure you like and comment on this video below. There's so much knowledge and advice being delivered from Spirit to you via this channel. Healing your physical and emotional pains will guide you towards a more loving and meaningful life. This is the Spiritual Renaissance.